Yo, what's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. You may know me as the former producer for the Murph and Mac Morning Show on KMBR, or maybe from some of these other Locked On podcasts that we do. But today, the 49ers humbled in Houston as they fall 26-15 to the Texans. And man, oh man, was that time of possession a big deal in this one. A big differential in that 49ers could not get off the field on third down. We'll get into that later on today.
The Houston Texans situational football offensively, specifically through the air, was a huge difference for them as it pertains to the outcome of this game. We're going to talk about how that really messed things up for the San Francisco 49ers and their defense.
Hey everyone, I'm Dwayne Boyd, four-time Super Bowl champion, and the thing that I saw in the game today was the 49ers failed to protect their defense on the offense. What I'm saying is they failed to have a running game that protected the defense from going on the field. The defense spent too much time on the field, and that you can't have with a team that's really banged up on that side of the ball. And that's what they were. Guys was falling like flies, and when you're playing with backups and next man up, it's when they get down to that next man up, that's you at the end of the rope when you don't have anybody else.
Not the outcome we were looking for today for the 49ers, but we move on. 49ers Squad Show starts right now.
To all the faithful, it's the 49ers Squad. Everything San Francisco 49ers every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from Levi's Stadium. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. For those faithful to the Bay, the 49ers Squad Show starts now.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Again, I am Eric Triple E Engel, joined by Eric Crocker and Dwayne Board, and this is the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. Thanks to everyone for joining us today. Shout out all our everydayers who make us your first listen for anything you need to know 49ers. And today's show is sponsored by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. And make sure you're subscribed everywhere, however you're getting the show, whether it's the YouTube channel or on the podcast channel. We appreciate it. And today, I would have appreciated some offense from the 49ers, man. We thought this one was going to be low scoring, and it was, but more points for the Houston Texans than I really thought we were gonna see today. And we talked a lot about how CJ Stroud on Wednesday. We talked a lot about how this guy was already talking about feeling old and not feeling like he could run as fast as he used to. And these were his words that he went out and stated. Sure looked pretty nimble on a few plays today, using his legs a lot more than I expected him to, and carving up that defense for over 300 passing yards and a couple of touchdowns with a bunch of nobodies at wide receiver. I mean, this Texans offense looked pretty good out there, but I think this was more the 49ers defense kind of dropping the ball and having all those injuries finally catch up. No pass rush anywhere to be seen. Crocky, you played as a defensive back, man. How hard is it to cover guys when there is no pass rush at all, just leaving you out there on an island? A lot of people might look at this game and say the 49ers secondary dropped the ball. I don't see it that way. Do you?
Oh, man, it was tough. Yeah, the secondary play didn't quite help, but I always look to the coach, right? Look, is the coach putting the defense in a position to be more successful? And then from there, then you put it on the players. Obviously, the 49ers are lacking pass rush. Like, we all know that. Not a strength of the 49ers right now. It wasn't really heading into the season. Then you lose Nick Bosa. It makes it even worse. And then you lose Bryce Huff. And it's like, all right, now you have no pass rush. So how can you help? And I would have potentially liked to see a little bit more man. When you're playing as much zone as the 49ers played and you have no pass rush, it allows receivers to find spots, hook up, soft spots in zones, and complete passes at an efficient level. And we saw that time and time again for the Houston Texans.
Yeah, and I mean, especially on third down. I mean, the third down conversion rate for the Texans today was incredible. And this was a team that was ranked 31. Yeah, and they were ranked 31 out of 32. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say they're above 50% on the game, and they converted on 9 out of 16 third downs. Like where the 49ers were like the opposite. They were below 50%. So we want to talk about how the 49ers, lost this game, you kind of look at their third down defense. It just wasn't good enough to get the Houston Texans off the field. And this is a Houston Texans offense that have been sputtering. They haven't been good. They haven't been good on third down. They haven't been good really on many downs at all. But versus the 49ers, they were excellent.
Yeah, 9 of 16 on third down. As you said, they're also 1 of 1 on fourth down. So, I mean, that's a lot of you're giving up 10 first downs on third or fourth down throughout the game. You're probably going to lose, man. And in this one especially, I thought this was going to be something the 49ers would be able to handle, right? They were a top 10 team defensively for holding teams on third down. And the Texans were ranked 31st out of 32 NFL teams coming into today on third down conversions. So you would expect, based on that matchup, that the 49ers were going to have a high rate of success getting off the field on third down in this one, and that was just not the case. Almost 500 total yards for the Texans in this one, 475 total yards. That is it's hard, especially when you look at the other side of that coin. 233 total yards for the 49ers is not going to get it done. 25 rushing yards. Dwayne, you touched on this in the open, man. You just look at that time of possession, 41 minutes and 22 seconds for the Texans, 18 minutes and 38 seconds for the 49ers. You want to know where that disparity was? You look right to that run game, 25 yards from Christian McCaffrey. And Dwayne, as a guy who was plugging up the middle on defensive lines for a decade in the NFL, how tough is it when your offense is just 3 and out every time and the defense cannot get off the field? At a certain point, it just feels like it's a landslide, right? Like you just get exhausted out there.
You do when you don't have the depth along the defensive line, and you go back and you look at it. Matt Jones, he was the only other guy that carried the ball in the running game, and they have to find a way to move the ball, because with the defense and the shape that it is now, and they don't have no depth to bring in extra rushes, because the extra rushes is playing every down now, and those guys get worn down. And going back, you talk about before this game even came about was, man, 49ers might have a chance because the Houston Texans had a short week and playing on Monday night, but it looked like the 49ers had a short week. Looked like they was not very prepared for the Houston Texans. Maybe they're looking forward to games down the road, but it looked like one of those games where Houston didn't play with that many stars, but a lot of stars came out today, because the quarterback made a lot of receivers, a lot of no-name receivers, great receivers today, catching the ball and getting yardage, and it hurts. Again, I can't say it over again, that the way you protect the defense is you got to have a running game and you got to control the ball. And there was no ball control in this game at all. It was one-sided. Houston controlled the ball.
Yeah, and it was a ton of underneath passes today that really hurt the 49ers. CJ Stroud just dinking and dunking, death by a million paper cuts. And the 49ers defense just didn't really adjust to that. And with the lack of pass rush, it just seemed like CJ Stroud was just, I mean, he had all the time in the world back there. He could have sat down in his rocking chair and just like knitted himself a sweater and like a matching beanie. Like he had all the time in the world back there to do whatever he wanted. And speaking of the whole next man up thing, you also saw Sam Okawanu go down in this one too. And that's another pass rush. Like you are getting so into the weeds on who is playing defensive line for this team now. It's virtually nobody that you expected to be on that line at the start of the season, except for basically Mykel Williams. And I mean, you're just leaving the rookie as the only guy who can really make an impact out there right now. And it's a lot of pressure to be put on one player up front. It's very, very, very tough situation for the 49ers on defense right now. And I was a little surprised to see both Diamador Lenore and Renardo Green play in this one. I did not expect both of those guys to be in. I was thinking at least one of them would probably miss this game, but both of them were able to get in there for the 49ers. Didn't matter. The Texans group of wide receivers, ragtag group of wide receivers led by Xavier Hutchinson and Jalen Noel. I mean, these two guys combined for over 120 yards through the air in 10 receptions and a touchdown. I mean, they even lost Braxton Berrios halfway through this game. I mean, this was just as much as the 49ers are on next man up in their defensive line, the Texans are in the same situation with their pass catchers, but it did not seem to matter out there. And from what I saw in this game, like you can't leave your secondary hung out to dry the way that they were in this one. I mean, there was a lot of missed tackles in this one too. This was just a sloppy game all the way around. The 49ers could not get anything really going on either side of the ball, and it was from start to finish, right? I mean, the Texans were up 16-0. But at one point in this one, the 49ers got a desperation touchdown right before halftime. And I thought that might be something that they could kind of build on going into the half, because they had that big Brian Robinson kick return, which looked real nice, probably their best special teams play of the season. Tack on the face mask at the end of that return. You quickly move into Texans territory and get that nice touchdown to George Kittle, which was a cool thing to see on National Tight Ends Day. Of course, you want to see Big 85 pulling one down in the end zone, but you would have liked to see that a little more. You would have liked to see George Kittle maybe be a little bit more involved in the pass game than just 4 receptions for 43 yards. But again, I think that the Texans were really, really keying in on that matchup. Henry To'oTo'o was very, very good in pass coverage today. I mean, you saw him break up a lot of passes intended for McCaffrey and those tight ends today. I mean, little undersized linebacker, but man, that guy can move in pass coverage. And it was rough for the 49ers trying to get anything going offensively. Mac Jones falls back to earth a little bit, only 193 yards on 19 of 32 attempts, a couple of touchdowns and that one interception. George Kittle on that touchdown kind of bailed out Mac a little bit like that. He threaded that ball between 3 defenders, but man, that did not look like a pass he should have thrown out of the hand. Thank goodness George Kittle snared that one. But really the key for me, one of the big moments in this one, which you might kind of forget based on kind of how this one turned out, is right after that big 49ers touchdown, right? They get all this momentum back. The Texans get the ball, and Deommodore Lenoir pulls down an interception. And instead of going down within field goal range and setting up a last-second field goal to close out the half, he starts running around, lets all the time tick off. And again, this is that kind of situational football we were talking about in the open, Crocky. You got to make those winning plays, man. Like you cannot be leaving points on the table in a game like today. That would have been a huge momentum shift for the 49ers in this one. Looks like we lost Dwayne there. We'll try and get it back. But Crocky, situational football, man. Why were the Texans so much better at it than the 49ers today? And this was just one example, man. It felt like there were so many situations. That punt at the very end that was downed on the 1 yard line. It seemed like every play, every like technical play that the Texans needed to make in this one, they made.
I mean, execution. The execution was good. When the guy was supposed to be in a certain spot, if they ran and they're like, hey, we're going to run a stick concept, they were doing it exactly how they were supposed to do it, and the quarterback was reading it exactly how he was supposed to read it. Now, I thought the 49ers kind of soft defense underneath kind of allowed for them to play with that type of efficiency. There was zero resistance by the 49ers defense, whether it was because of the pass rush or some of the linebackers in coverage. I think we do think a lot about the 49ers, their pass rush, man, is lacking. But what about missing the coverage of guys like Fred Warner, right? Like, did we feel that? There was a deep crosser that got hit at one point in the game. I want to say it might have been like Hutchins or Braxton Berrios. It was one of those receivers. I don't know who they are from the Houston Texans. And I'm like, man, I wonder if the linebacker could have helped either reroute or wall that off or something. So I think the 49ers are kind of missing a coverage element without Fred Warner as well.
Yeah. Go ahead. I agree with you on that, because on that one touchdown, the first touchdown that CJ threw, that was the linebacker's fault. He froze. It looked like he was a deer in headlights. He just stood there. He didn't work. He should have been buzzing, but he sit there. He had the number two. He had the number 2 guy. So when they came in motion, they motioned the receiver across. He became the number 2 guy. So he should have opened to that side, but he just froze. And I don't think, if that would have been Fred would have saw it. He might have picked it. It wouldn't have been a touchdown. But you're right. There was some breakdowns, not in the secondary, but also along the lines of the linebackers too.
Yeah, the 49ers defense is just not the same without Fred Warner. That goes kind of without saying. I mean, he's everything to this defense. He's the green dot. He's the best tackler. He's probably the best at covering guys in the middle of the field of anybody on this team. Like, not just talking linebackers. Like, he is one of the best coverage guys on this team, period, regardless of position. He's big enough to cover a linebacker and fast enough to cover a slot receiver. And there's so few guys in the NFL that can do that. And to lose someone like that, you don't just have another one of those guys on your roster that you can just plug in and expect him to do the same thing. You can maybe try to piecemeal it together, but it's just not ever going to look the same. Tatum Bethune has been trying his best out there, man, but we had a good game from him last week. He did lead the team with 14 total tackles today, but only 4 solo tackles, man. And it seemed like anytime the 49ers defense was in a position where they needed to make a solo tackle, you talk about leak yardage. One thing that Saleh loves to talk about is leak yardage. And I felt like the Texans got all sorts of leak yardage today against this 49ers defense that just didn't really seem ready to come up and lay some wood today on these Texans running backs and pass catchers, man. I mean, I wanted to see some punishment for these guys going over the middle of the field, and there wasn't any of it there. The 49ers defense felt soft. Those underneath routes, as you were just talking about, Crocky, kind of got CJ Stroud into a rhythm, and it just kind of snowballed from there. And once they got that momentum going, I mean, again, it can't be, I can't say enough how much the time of possession really factored into this one. It's really hard to win a football game when you run that many fewer plays than your opponent. You're on the field for less than 20 minutes and you let the opponent be out there for 41 plus. I mean, the Texans ran 75 offensive plays. The 49ers ran 44. You don't really need to look any further than that. You lost that game. It doesn't, like, if I gave that stat to anybody, they would say, oh yeah, the team that ran 44 plays probably lost, because I mean, the objective of the game, score more points than the other guy. Kind of hard to do that when you don't have anyone out there on your offense to move the ball. It's just a very frustrating day for the 49ers, and really that run game so ineffective, just bottled up all day long. McCaffrey, we wanted him to get a little fewer touches going forward and maybe try and preserve those legs going forward. But I think we want more than 8 rushes for Christian McCaffrey, right? Right, Crocky?
Yeah, so in the chat, I see Richard says McCaffrey ran 8 times. Make that make sense. And I think from the jump, it was kind of difficult, right? Like the Houston Texans came out and they scored on their first few possessions, while the 49ers struggled to get anything going. They were going 3 and out. So you come out, maybe you try to throw the ball, get Mac Jones in the rhythm. Oh, it's incomplete. Let's turn around, run the ball. All right, cool. Then you throw the ball again, incomplete. You're punting the ball. By the second time, the 49ers, or I said the third time, because they went like back-to-back 3 and outs. By the third time they got the ball, you got to also remember the Houston Texans ate up 10 minutes of clock, or just shy of 10 minutes of clock, on their very first possession. Yeah. So by the second time the 49ers touched the football, it was like second quarter. So you're missing a lot of possessions. Then you go 3 and out there. I think that made the rhythm of the football game a little bit more difficult to get the ball in Christian McCaffrey's hands, at least in the backfield. 49ers are playing from behind this entire game.
You're right, Crockett. You look at the first half was ugly. Yeah, they had the ball. The offense had the ball 14 times in the first half. That's disgusting. Along with, Houston had it 45 times. And again, when you plan on the road, and you can't have that, man. You got to make something happen. And they didn't make nothing happen. And what? They ran the ball, like you said. They didn't run. Christian McCaffrey, what did he have? He only touched the ball 2 times in the first half running. And that's another you can't have. When you
got it.
Yeah, Matt Jones was the leading rusher in the first half where he scrambled for 13 yards. Man, it's going to be a long season if they don't fix some of this stuff.
Yeah, Mac Jones finished with 2 fewer rush yards than Christian McCaffrey today. 25 rushing yards for Christian McCaffrey on 8 attempts. Mac Jones, 23 on his 2 scrambles, and had a long of 13. That was the longest rush of the game for the 49ers, was Mac Jones' 13-yard scramble. But just a very subpar game from the 49ers all the way around. I mean, if you're looking to lay the blame on just one unit, you got to spread it around, man. There isn't just one unit that dropped the ball today. It was everybody. This was a collective, just essing of the bed for lack of a better term. You know what I mean? Like they just could not handle anything out there that the Texans were throwing at them. The offense couldn't get the ball moving. The defense couldn't stop anything. As my guy Troy Clarity for the Stanford Cardinal play-by-play says, buzzard luck. Big time buzzard luck for the 49ers. Can't kill nothing, won't nothing die. And that was exactly what was going on out there. By the way, Troy Clarity is going to be calling your 49ers game against the Rams coming up on KMBR. So shout out our guy Troy filling in for Greg Papa. Greg, hope you're feeling better, man. We're all pulling for you. But the 49ers today couldn't do anything. And one thing that we did not really get into yet, which I want to key in on the next segment, is this Houston Texans pass rush versus the 49ers pass rush, which was essentially non-existent for the Niners and in abundance for the Texans. So let's get into that and more on the other side of the Locked On 49ers Squad show. Today's show is brought to you by PrizePicks. You and I make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement of this sports season. Whether you're following the NFL, NBA, or both, there's no better time to jump in on the action. And if you haven't tried it yet, PrizePicks is the simplest way to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats, and if you get them right, you win. It takes less than 60 seconds to make your lineup, and you can play anywhere PrizePicks operates, including California, Texas, Georgia, and more. And in this one, it was National Tight End Day. Of course, I had to go with my guy, George Kittle, more than a half passing touchdown. And I also went with Dallas Goedert, more than a half a passing touchdown for the Eagles. He actually caught 2 of them. So that is a win. That one is cash money. And make sure that you're tuning into the Wednesday show so we can give you more picks ahead of next week's game in week 9. Download PrizePicks today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. And today's show is also brought to you by Rugiet. Let's be real. Making excuses doesn't solve anything. We've heard them all before. It's just stress. I'm tired. It happens to everyone sometimes. And no, I'm not talking about the San Francisco 49ers laying down on defense. I'm talking about Rugiet, man. When it comes to performance, sometimes your body just needs a little extra support, and that's where Rugiet comes in. Rugiet.com offers fast-acting, doctor-prescribed treatments for ED designed to help you stop making excuses and start making moves. If you're prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly and directly right to your front door. The process is fast, simple, and private, and it's all handled by real doctors. It's all about confidence, connection, and getting back to the moments that matter, and that is what Rugiet gives you. Visit Rugiet, RUGIET.com/LockedOnNFL to get 15% off your first order. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnNFL. And don't forget to use our code LockedOnNFL so they know we sent you. Rugiet, stop making excuses and start making moves. Welcome back to the Locked On 49ers Squad show. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel, joined by Eric Crocky Crocker, head coach of Stag State, and he got another win this last week, man. He's doing great out there with his guys out there in Stockton, and 4-time Super Bowl champion Dwayne Board, former defensive lineman for your San Francisco 49ers. But Dwayne, man, I've said this a few times. We got to get you like a 1-week contract out there right now. Like the 49ers are so desperate for anybody that can go plug up a hole, man. Are you ready to go, Dwayne? You got the helmet and pads back there somewhere. You ready to go show up next week and open tryouts, right? Like it seems like you got to have something for this defensive line to change going forward, because this pass rush is virtually non-existent right now.
I've said it over and over again. If I go back out there, I'm going to run games. I'm going to run every time I'm calling a game, because right now I don't want to be rushing guys right down the middle. And it's like, again, a refrigerator magnet. That's what they're rushing with. You throw a refrigerator magnet up on the refrigerator and it sticks. And you go back and you look, the 49ers only had 2 quarterback hits. That's terrible. And also, the problem with going against other teams, I've said it before. You have to work on those rush games. When the 49ers did pressure, they ran one pressure and they brought the safety up in B gap. And what did Stroud do? He pulled the ball down and ran outside because guess what? The end was peeking inside and he got captured. He should have been up the field for contain. When you got somebody going in B gap, you better get your butt up the field because the pressure came through. He runs out, nobody could catch him. I think that was his longest run today. He just pulled the ball down and took off. And when you go back again, you look at the Houston Texans without pass rush, all I heard was Anderson. That guy, he was everywhere. He was a guy that was crushing the pocket and making Jones look at where the rush was coming. And one time I saw him just crush a guy. He just walked him all the way back and threw him on the quarterback on poor. And quarterbacks don't like that. When they look down and see their left tackle laying at their feet, they don't like that. It makes them nervous. And that showed up too. I don't understand why they don't chip too.
Yeah,
only chip we had one chip, and I think that was who chipped. It was the tight end. He was the only guy that was able to chip. You got to be able to chip. That's one thing that outside rushers have a problem with. You don't really have to hit him that hard. All you got to do is brush him on the outside hip. Once he loses his outside hip, that's his pass rush. It's gone. And we got to, as an offense, but they have to do a better job of teaching guys the correct way to chip a fast pass rusher with speed. Because that's all he was showing. He was taking the edge with speed. He was speed rushing. I'm talking about Anderson. And we didn't have nobody over there to rub him off, to just hit that outside hip. All you got to do is brush it right at the hip bone, and he's done. He'll be looking for that chip every play after that.
Yeah, and it wasn't just Will Anderson. Danielle Hunter felt like he was getting through early and often in this one as well. But yeah, to your point about chipping, even that very last interception that Mac Jones threw on that final drive, where we were just talking about this before we started the show, before we got going today in the green room waiting to start, and they did try to chip Will Anderson on that play. McCaffrey went out there and got a piece of him, but it was, you got to get a little bit more than that. And Will Anderson just kind of shrugged that off, got right to the quarterback, hit the quarterback again, and it forced that interception. But one thing that happened several times today, Dwayne, you and I both saw this. I know he was getting back there all the time, Will Anderson Jr., and I don't want to sit here and complain and bitch and moan about penalties that were called or weren't called, but it's kind of hard to see your quarterback getting hit in the head multiple times. And I know it wasn't with a ton of force. It wasn't like egregious or flagrant or anything like that. But that's a penalty in today's NFL. If a defensive lineman's trying to get to the quarterback, putting a hit on him, and you're smacking him in the face mask with your hand, like that is supposed to be a penalty in today's NFL. Like that, I know it was a last gasp kind of desperation moment for the 49ers. And I'm not saying that this totally changed the outcome of that game in that one play. But this happened, I counted 3 separate times that this happened in this game, that this was not called. And can you get a break? You know what I mean? Like that, I'm just looking for a break for my guys out there, because when you're kind of snowballing it with the negativity out there, and you're seeing the Texans just continuously roll over your defense and the offense continuously going 3 and out, a penalty like that could kind of gift you a first down in a situation like that, that in and of itself could be a momentum shift for the 49ers. And you just didn't have any of those things break your way today. It was a lot of poor execution and poor play by the 49ers. That's what lost them the game. Don't get me wrong. But those moments also absolutely mounted up in this one and did not help the 49ers.
Well, Eric, it's one thing that happens before the game even starts is when the head coach has a meeting with the referees. He has to tell the referees what to look for. If you go back and watch these guys in film, and they have to make a point of it, say, hey, look, these guys, when the ball's in the air, they do a lot of hitting the quarterback in the face, okay? They have to make those things aware to the officials, because Hey, half these officials, these guys got on Sunday. This is a secondary job for them. It's not an everyday job for them. So you have to remind them what to look for. And when you have that meeting, it's the head coach's responsibility to tell the official what the heck they're doing.
Yeah, this 49ers team, it felt like in every phase just got worked today. I mean, Crocky, if you had to try and find one positive from today's game, something the 49ers did well, do you got anything for me, man? You got even one thing?
I got one thing that I saw that was a positive, and then I'm not even going to say it was like consistently a positive, but Jair Brown, he triggered a couple of times around the line of scrimmage and had some really big key stops in the run game. So that was exciting to see. You would like to see the secondary be better in coverage, but to see how he was kind of seeing it, whether, we always tell our guys, hey, you see the guards pull, they're going to take you to the run. And he was kind of slicing in there before guys can get there. And he had a couple of tackles right there, either at the line of scrimmage or for loss. So that was exciting to see. Not a whole lot of excitement outside of that.
Yeah, he did. He had 4 solo tackles today, and a tackle for loss, a TFL. You love those TFLs, especially when they come from your safety spot. So that is a positive. And I see in the chat too, our guy Vinny saying special teams, Brian Robinson. There's another positive for you. That was probably the best single special teams play I've seen the 49ers have. At least returning the ball in probably this entire year. I mean, it has been a long time since you've seen any kind of juice in that big return setup, that first touchdown right before the half, which could have been a big momentum shift in this one. But as we talked about earlier, Diamador Lenore pulling down that pick and just wasting that end of that clock. You gotta have that situational awareness, man, to get down in field goal range and give Eddie Pinheiro a chance to knock one through. I mean, he has been so good all season long. You got to have the whole sideline. Like I want to see somebody else on that team, like even on the defense, go over, grab your guy and put him on the ground, man. Don't let him keep running around. Fred probably, if he was out there, would have run over and told Diamador Lenore, hey, buddy, sit your butt on the ground right now. Put that knee down. Give Eddie a chance to kick the field goal and get us some points before halftime. But we will say Brian Robinson's kick return was nice. You saw some good things from Jair Brown. Dwayne, Eric Crocky gave us a positive. I gave you a positive. I need one positive from you before we can move on.
The one positive was, I think right now, if you had to pick one guy on offense that really helped, that's put a spark in the offense, would be Kittle. So that was in one spot, because that was a hard ball to catch. He had 3 guys on him. He came down with it, but actually he had to double catch it. It ended up between these legs. But, man, a catch is a catch. And I thought that was one heck of a play made by Kittle.
Yeah, Kittle over the middle is money for the 49ers. And I'd like to see more of that, man. Like, just nothing else is working. Just force feed them. Like, I don't care anymore. Like, nothing else is working out there. Like, just give your playmakers the ball and let something happen. I mean, we did also get to see Jordan Watkins get his first NFL reception in a regular season game. So that was kind of cool. Came in garbage time minutes when it did not matter at all. But seeing him back out on the field out there, maybe he can work into this wide receiver group and give you a little more explosiveness out of that unit, because it just looks so bogged down right now. I mean, they look slow out there. They look like they're just getting just locked up in the secondary by this Houston Texans defense. I mean, there was no separation today from the wide receivers for the 49ers against this Houston Texans defense. And I keep waiting for this unit to kind of come together, to show something cohesively. And we're just not seeing it, even with George Kittle back. But good news, Brandon Ayuk. We got some news coming out late this week before this game saying that Brandon Ayuk's practice window might be opening soon. The 49ers consider him week to week. But I will caution everybody, take that with a grain of salt, the biggest grain of salt that you can find, because it's Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers. We don't know a damn thing about what's going to happen with Brandon Ayuk. But, man, I'm just sitting here hoping that he comes back and can make an impact. And also, how much of an impact can this guy really make coming off the injury he's coming off of, with no camp and just no time to ramp up with his guys? Crocky, do you think that when Brandon Ayuk comes back, do you think that he is going to make a measurable impact on this 49ers pass catching group.
I think they can potentially build up to that. I'm reminded of a time when the 49ers had a guy by the name of Michael Crabtree. And in OTAs, I believe it was, which, I'm pretty sure it was OTAs. Funny story, kind of backstory on this. I was with the New York Jets at the time, still a huge 49er fan. And I remember, we're in the cafeteria, we're eating. I look at the TV and see Michael Crabtree ruptured his Achilles, tore his Achilles. And I look to the guys next to him, I'm like, hey, dang, man, Michael Crabtree tore his Achilles. And they're looking at me like, who gives a damn, Croc? Like, we're not worried about them. But that was just a 49er fan in me talking. But he came back later that year, and I think he helped the 49ers towards the end of the season. Now, he didn't hit the ground running. He came in, kind of worked his way back, but by playoff time, he was able to really contribute for the 49ers offensively and help them in that win over Green Bay Packers in the cold weather. So can Brandon Ayuk help the 49ers? You may not see the return on that immediately, but if the 49ers can continue to win games and potentially make a playoff push, man, that last quarter of the season, heading into the playoffs, I think we might start to see him look a little bit more like what he was used to being. I'd say my question is, on a guy who has not played and he's been on the PUP list or whatever since before the season, is there a certain time that you have to open up that window for him to play, or can you hypothetically wait to week 15 and open up that practice window for him then?
Yeah, I think they can wait as long as they want to, or just put them essentially just put them on the injury report and just list them week to week after that if they got to open that practice window soon. But the good news for the 49ers is that you look ahead to next week and you get the New York Giants coming to town. And while this is, you never want to see an injury of this type in the NFL, I do not advise anybody to go back and watch the replay because it's hard to watch. But Cam Scatterbo, who has been one of the most exciting players in the NFL, I mean, he has just taken this league by absolute storm. A kid who grew up a 49er fan and was probably looking forward to his first game at Levi Stadium next week, playing for the New York Giants. He's very likely done for the season. He dislocated his ankle and went to a local hospital, was carted off the field. Just a gruesome scene for the Giants, and you got to imagine just a gut punch for that entire fan base. But for the 49ers, a little bit of good news, I guess, because you don't have to face Cam Scatterbo, who, I mean, you talk about the 49ers having problems tackling the Houston Texans. Oh man, that would have been a whole nother animal trying to bring down Scat back there. And you'll still have Jackson Dart for the Giants, who has injected a little bit of life into that squad, and they've looked a lot better with those two guys offensively. But without Cam Scatterbo in the backfield, the 49ers are going to get a little bit of a break next week, hopefully being able to kind of key in on some certain things more. Maybe if you can just focus on stopping Jackson Dart in that New York Giants passing attack and getting some pressure on the quarterback. I don't expect that run game to really dominate the 49ers. I think that they could put more of their emphasis on defending the pass and stopping the Giants and just letting them run the ball and trying to see if they can beat them that way. So we'll see what happens next week. But for just the immediate future, looking ahead, it's not like the sky is falling. Yesterday was bad. This was, I mean, I'm not sure if the 49ers played worse in this one than they did against the Jags, but this very well could have been the 49ers' worst performance of the entire season. But again, you get a little bit of a break on the schedule, at least next week, but then it's Rams week, and that it's going to be all systems go for that. So you kind of get a little bit of an opportunity here to pick up another win, and maybe you can go into Rams week 6-3, which is still not a bad record. That, I mean, the 49ers are still looking like they're in a pretty good spot in the NFC West. They don't have the lead of the division anymore, but they're not in a bad spot. And to be, again, 5-3, potentially 6-3 if you win next week, going into that game against the Rams with an opportunity, just reading the crystal ball, an opportunity to win another game against the Rams, own that tiebreaker, and take over to again jump into a tie for first place in the NFC West. That would be awesome stuff for the 49ers if they're able to do that. And if you were to think about this season to start, and you were to think Brock's going to miss all these games, the line's going to be in shambles, you're losing Fred Warner and Nick Bosa and all these other guys out there, and you are still 5-3 after 8 weeks, That's not horrible, man. This could be a lot worse for the 49ers right now. I know that this game was putrid. I mean, burn the game tape, throw this one away. I mean, move on, turn the page, start focusing on the Giants right now, kind of thing. But ultimately, this team is not dead in the water. There's a lot left on the table, a lot more meat on the bone this season that the 49ers can go and tear some chunks out of. So hopefully this team is able to get back on track. Next week against the Giants, they will certainly need to do that if they want to keep pace with the other teams in this division, the Rams and the Seahawks. It's going to be tough sledding for the next couple of weeks after that, because you got the Rams and the Cardinals, and then you get the Panthers, who have been a little bit better, a little feisty, I think, down there in Carolina, feistier than people thought they'd be. So the schedule, you got some opportunities to win some games, but ultimately today, too much CJ Stroud, 318 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Guy was just standing there like a statue in the pocket and just had all the time in the world to throw. So maybe we can get into that a little bit later on in the show and talk about just exactly what CJ Stroud was doing. But on the other side, man, I want to talk more about this run game specifically for the 49ers and why it has been so ineffective. I know the game script went away, but again, 3.1 yards per carry for Christian McCaffrey, man. We have only seen one game this year where he's had more than 4 yards a carry. So let's get into that next. The 49ers troubles running the football. That's what we're going to get into coming up on the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. Today's show is brought to you by Gametime. The NFL season is back, and honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans cheering on your team, but let's be honest. Getting tickets can be a hassle between queues, login screens, and prices jumping at checkout. It is frustrating, to say the least. Almost as frustrating as a 49ers 26-15 loss to the Texans, where they run the ball for like 25 yards with Christian McCaffrey. But nonetheless, Gametime, way less stressful than this 49ers game. The app that gives the advantage back to the fans. Gametime is fast, easy, and backed by the Gametime guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. And let me tell you, man, it's not just NFL games and NBA games, MLB games. You can get all of that on Gametime, but also anytime you're looking for concert tickets or anything like that. In fact, just last night, I was looking for concert tickets to go see Subtronics at the Bill Graham, and man, about 15 minutes before I left the house, I pulled up the Gametime app and was able to get the cheapest ticket on the market via Gametime, delivered right to my Apple Wallet before I even got out of the Waymo in front of the Bill Graham, man. So Gametime coming through as it always does. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Again, terms apply. That's promo code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. Welcome back to the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel, and today the 49ers, not enough in the tank to beat the Texans. 26-15 loss out there, humbled in Houston by this pass rush, man. And it wasn't just that, though. I mean, I thought that maybe the one thing that the 49ers could do to kind of negate that pass rush and slow those defensive ends down is run the ball and make those guys have to think a minute before pinning their ears back and just chasing down the quarterback. But it felt like those guys just weren't even concerned about the run game today, because Christian McCaffrey, again, just 25 yards on the ground, 3.1 yards per carry. And this is, I mean, it's a little concerning to me, man. Like, I know that the line has not been good. I know that there's all sorts of, it's a piecemealed together unit right now. And it's hard to have success, especially in a unit that relies so much on cohesiveness and working together. It's hard to have success when you keep rotating those bodies up front. Nevertheless, Christian McCaffrey is supposed to be the best running back in the NFL, or at least he has been with the 49ers for the last couple of years when he's been healthy. And again, we just have not seen it this year. 3.1 yards per carry again from Christian McCaffrey. He's had one game this year where he's had more than 4 yards per carry. So Dwayne, what's going on, man? I mean, is it McCaffrey that's having some issues just hitting the hole, or is it this line is really just that bad and not able to get any push up front?
The thing that I see is the Lions not getting no push up front. This is the same line pretty much that ended the Falcon game the week before to put up over 170 yards rushing. But the thing that I see that they need to do is go to 21 personnel. Go to 21 or either go to 12. 12 is when they put 2 tight ends in the game and 1 back. And that's going to have to cause the opposing defense to make some changes there, because you can't play 12 personnel with a regular set, but you got to be able to change up. Or I would go with with some heavy. I would go with 22 personnel sometime and make it tougher on them. And you have to, that's what takes the wheel out of a defense, is a running game. When you go in and pound them and keep pounding and pounding and get your quarterback into a situation where he's at 3rd and 3 rather than 3rd and 14, 3rd and 12, 3rd and 11, hey, all the defense is going to do, and Crocker tell you this, they're going to line up, man, they're going to turn those dogs loose, because the dogs want to eat. And that's what they're doing. They on 1st and 2nd down, they're not getting into a situation that's manageable, a 3rd and 3 game or a 3rd and 2 game, where it changes the game big time, and you don't see it. And the way you get there is you got to find a way to make yardage on first. If you throw it on 1st down and it's incomplete, guess what Kyle's going to do on 2nd down? He's going to run the ball. And you see who's back there, 1 running back. They're going to key off. Okay, anybody can see that. And that's something that has to change. You got to change your play calling up. Hey, if you got to run it 2 times in a row, run it 2 times in a row. Just don't go first down, I'm going to run the ball, get 2 yards. Guess what he's going to do on 2nd down? He's going to throw the ball, okay? So you got to be able to change it up so you don't be going back and forth. When most offense coordinators trying to keep the stuff at 50%, and that don't work. They think defenses don't know that.
Yeah, and Christian McCaffrey, another thing about him today is that he did not have the same type of game receiving the ball as he has in past games so far this year. I mean, he's been the 49ers leading receiver in most of these games. Today, he only had 3 receptions, 43 yards. And while the yardage I don't really have a problem with in this one, he did have that the longest play of the game for the 49ers late in this one, that 27-yard catch and run. But 6 targets for Christian McCaffrey, only 3 receptions, man. I know we want this guy to stop being, just run into the ground, but Crocky, you got to get the guy more than 11 touches, right? Like, you got to get him involved in the offense a little bit more. And I was actually pretty surprised to see the Texans take him out of the game as a pass catcher, essentially. Did you think that this was more of the 49ers not dialing up enough looks for McCaffrey, or were the Texans out there just shutting it down?
Well, we saw one time where they definitely dialed it in or dialed up a play to, get him the ball, nice little angle route. And 12-12, that the linebacker went to Tennessee, transferred to Alabama. He was just all over that, broke up the pass. It was near the end zone. I want to say right before the George Kittle touchdown. So that's one instance of them clearly trying to target Christian McCaffrey in the passing game. But I do think a lot of times he's kind of an outlet. You have him if you need it. You can look for your stuff downfield. If you don't like it, I don't want to call it a check down, but essentially he is an elite check down option, and it just wasn't there today. Now, sometimes to get to your check down when you're looking downfield or looking at some deeper concepts and when they come back to it, you need some time. And I thought Mac Jones, for the majority of today, he was under a little bit of duress. Now, when he did make throws, and this doesn't have anything to do with Christian McCaffrey, but Juwan Jennings, big post, got to come down with that ball. So there were some missed opportunities there for the 49ers as well.
Yeah, and Jennings, he did have 4 receptions, 45 yards, the leading receiver yardage-wise for the 49ers today. I'm just waiting for this guy to kind of give us a little bit more. And I know he's injured, but he was a guy who talked a lot this season, leading into this season, about how he deserved a certain dollar amount, a certain AAV on his contract. And my guy, if you want to earn that in this league, you got to show up when your team needs you. And so far, they were able to get basically the same level of production this season from Kendrick Bourne, a guy who they went and pulled off the scrap pile. And so you can't be sitting here demanding a big pay raise to make you pay like a wide receiver one in this league when you can go out and find a guy who is a free agent and did not even sniff training camp with your team and plug him in, and he's just fine. I know it's Kendrick Bourne, and he's been here in the past, and he's got a rapport with Mac Jones and all that. I get all those things. It does, none of that really matters to me. Like I need somebody to step up, and Juwan Jennings was kind of the guy who needed to be the guy who rose to the occasion coming into this season in the wide receiver room, and he just hasn't really been that guy. And again, I know he's got the high ankle sprain, the low ankle sprain, the ribs. I know he's got a lot of injuries. So does everybody else. So does Christian McCaffrey. You think that guy's healthy right now? You don't hear him making excuses about injuries and not performing. You got to find a way to rise to the occasion and contribute to this team. And I know he did have, like I said, 45 yards. He was the leading yardage-wise receiver for this 49ers team, but there's just no explosiveness. There's no real big plays. And like you said, when you have an opportunity like he did on that post route to make a big impactful play, you got to get it done in a game like this. You cannot just let that one slip through your hands. Like, you have to capitalize on those opportunities. The pick at the end was also on a ball that was intended for Juwan Jennings. I will say he did do he gave a decent effort to try to break that one up and turn into a defender. He tried to swipe and rake that ball out of the defender's hands. He just couldn't quite get it.
That was a poorly thrown pass.
It was a very poorly
thrown pass. He left that way too short.
Yep.
You got a big target like that. And there's a couple of things. One, the 49ers don't have a legit, like, deep ball guy. Now, they do have guys that they can throw maybe a fade to shorter kind of area, red zone. Kendrick Bourne, he's been a guy that's really been good with those contested catches. Juwan Jennings, he can make those as well. But if you are asking him to potentially outrun a guy or get in position 40, 30 yards downfield or whatever to make that play, that's just a very low percentage play for the 49ers current receivers. I think you can even add Ricky Pearsall and Brandon Ayuk, and I still think it would be a very low percentage play for what those guys have been throughout their careers. So I just didn't like the target. I didn't like the throw at that time. I felt like the 49ers, although you do want to get a score before the 2-minute warning, you got to just kind of move the ball down the field a little bit more methodically, obviously with timing, but you had 2 timeouts in your pocket. I didn't think they had to try that with him. But I guess with the guys that are playing, if you are going to do it, maybe that's the guy you go to. I just didn't like the decision in that time.
Yeah, totally agree. And that was on that same play we were talking about earlier where Anderson got to the quarterback and laid a hit on Mac Jones. Definitely a hit to the helmet with from Anderson on that play. So maybe that affected the throw by Jones, maybe not able to step up and plant that foot and get any juice on it. And maybe that's why it looked kind of like a little lame duck floating on out there and getting picked off. Underthrown for sure. And yeah, Juwan Jennings, that's not on him. Like I said, he did his best to try and turn into a defender in that situation. But ultimately, I got to see something more from this wide receiver group. And maybe, like I said earlier, maybe a Jordan Watkins can maybe add a little bit of a juice, a big play aspect to this 49ers offense. I mean, if you're looking for someone to take the top off, he's probably the most likely candidate of the healthy guys right now, which isn't really saying a whole lot, but I mean, he's got some speed. He's shifty in the slot. I mean, he's a guy who can maybe make something happen after the catch. Maybe the more that he gets integrated into this offense, we'll be able to see a little bit more stuff from him. But again, this is a guy who just had his first career NFL reception in a regular season game. You can't put a whole lot of expectation on him. I don't really know where the help is coming from for this 49ers offense. That's kind of what we're getting at in a very long roundabout way is even if Pearsall and Brandon Ayuk come back, like you were just kind of touching on, some of these things in the 49ers offense are just going to be not really there for this team. And it's not like Brock is going to come in and all of a sudden start, chucking deep balls. Like, that's not his game. That's not his strength. And we know that about Brock. And so you would like to see that. You would like to see a little bit more of those explosive plays, those big yards, big chunk plays. but that's got to come from getting yards after the catch. And this is something that the 49ers have not been very good at doing this year compared to what they've done in the years past. You did see that big catch and run by Christian McCaffrey late in this one, but I'm used to seeing, 4 or 5 kinds of those types of plays throughout a game for the 49ers. And I feel like we're lucky to get even one at this point. So Dwayne, if you're trying to get your guys in some space and open up some room for them, put on the offensive coordinator hat for a second. If you're Kyle Shanahan and company, what are you dialing up to maybe try and get the yards after catch going again? The Yak Bros back in business.
Well, the first thing I'm going to try to do is get my short game going. I'm going to get the ball out the quarterback's hand as quick as possible. And we haven't seen that. We've been seeing a lot of down the field throws and the quarterback holding the ball too long. And I mentioned this before, when you back in the day with Dan Marino, guy couldn't move a lick, but he had a 3-step drop, the ball was coming out. Is that possible? Can Kyle put that in his game plan? You don't see very many 3-step drops. Well, they're in shotgun most of the time, but when they're not in shotgun, and a 3-step drop is getting the ball out. I always believed in, if you took the defensive line and the offensive line away, if you just took the offensive lineman away, line up 4 defensive guys across the ball, snap the ball to the quarterback, no rush, 3 steps, the ball's out. The rush will never get there. You have to get that out. And that's one thing that's frustrating to a pass rusher too, is a 3-step drop. When the ball's coming out before you even get your hands on your tackle or hands on the guard. And you got to come up with a scheme to show more than that. And I haven't seen that out of Kyle Shanahan. Have you seen it, Croc? A 3-step drop, getting the ball out?
I think he definitely has a big time timing-based passing offense. But yeah, you don't see a whole lot of
you don't see the quick game
concepts that you would like to see.
Put a quick game, and like you said, Eric, you want to see pitch and catch. That's the quick game. Get the ball to your receivers quick. Let them run with it. Because right now, I don't see that much quick game coming from his offense.
I thought the Houston Texans were far better with their quick game offense, dialing those up and being super efficient with it than what we saw from the 49ers. From the 49ers, everything looked a little bit more difficult. It looked hard. And what the Houston Texans were doing in the quick game, it looked easy, efficient. They executed at a high level.
And the thing with me is Kyle Shanahan's dad had a quick game. He used to run rub routes. He would rub guys off and get the ball out of quarterback's hands quick as possible. And you don't see him running the rub routes anymore, where they're rubbing guys off. And it's an automatic catch when you got guys can run those routes. I used to hate him because it was no answer to it, because somebody was going to come open.
Yeah, and I think 2 things that this 49ers offense could do to get that quick game going, which kind of seem like no-brainers to me that we don't really see a whole lot from this offense, is get some screens, work in some screen passes. You got Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle. Set these guys up with some blockers in front of them, in the ball in space, and let them go to work, man. That's what these guys do best. So you could run some of those, some of that action. Maybe one staple that we used to see from this team was like a little play action into a tight end screen that was going the other way. And we just haven't really seen much of that kind of stuff, much of those wrinkles from this offense this year. And I'm not really sure why. Maybe it's just like a personnel thing. It's kind of hard to run some of those concepts if your offensive line isn't in sync, isn't in lockstep. And so some of those things, maybe they just don't feel confident in running them. But if that's the case, then I want to see some drag routes to George Kittle. I want to see some little slants over the middle, like just quick 3-step drops and get the ball out. And you can't tell me that George Kittle is not going to find a way to get himself open on a route like that. He absolutely is going to either end up in one-on-one coverage or have some space to work in front of him after catching that ball, and just let him go to work. Like, give your guy the ball in space, give him an opportunity to make a play. That's when this 49ers offense is at its best. And maybe they can implement some of these things going forward. But man, like you guys were saying, the Texans short game today in the passing game was the 49ers did not adjust, did not stop it in any way. And that really allowed CJ Stroud to get into his rhythm and just start tearing up this 49ers defense with the likes of Xavier Hutchinson, Jalen Noel, Jaden Higgins, Braxton Berrios. I mean, it was not a lot of big names on that Texans team, but it didn't really matter. The 49ers had their starting unit out there in the secondary, still couldn't slow them down in this one. Fall 26-15 to the Texans. On to the New York Giants. Let's take a quick break here, and on the other side, we'll wrap up this show, put a bow on it, and maybe give you a sneak preview into what the 49ers will be facing next against the New York Giants. That's what's coming up next on the Locked On Giants squad show, not postcast, squad show. Today's show is sponsored by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score the next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push, or maybe if the 49ers just kind of look down and out, gives you a reason to stay locked in with your 49ers. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Welcome back to the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel, joined by Eric Crocker and Dwayne Board. And guys, not the result we wanted from the 49ers today in Houston, but you got the New York Giants coming up next. You're coming, I believe it's a home game coming up for the Niners, right? They're home next week. No, it's in New York. It's in New York. So the Niners still on the road. They're a 10 a.m. start next weekend against the Giants and Jackson Dart, but no Cam Scattaboo. Real quick before we get on out of here, Crocky, do they get back on track next week?
They're gonna have to. All right, you're gonna have to figure out a way. Now you got a young quarterback, Jackson Dart, and I like him, but he definitely there's a couple things he does that's very consistent. One, he's looking for the big play. All right, so now he's holding on to the ball longer, and if it's not quite there, then he's trying to look to make a play with his legs. He is no Lamar Jackson back there with his legs. He can kind of take off and pick up some yards on the ground, but you got to kind of corral him and keep him in the pocket. I think Robert Saleh, a very experienced defensive coordinator, can dial up some things to make, that young quarterback a little confused, holding the ball long, and maybe that's just what the 49ers pass rush needs to kind of get going. So I like the 49ers in this game, but they're going to have to confuse the young quarterback, especially without him having his bell cow running back in the backfield.
Yeah, and that might be, I think you're onto something there, man, because we've seen so far this year Jackson Dart kind of get out into space and holding the ball a little bit longer than he should, trying to make some plays with his legs, and he has taken some licks, man. Like he has, you don't really see the quarterback get hit that hard that often in this league. I have seen Jackson Dart take some smacks this year, and maybe if you're Robert Saleh, you're telling your guys, rip that ball out, man. Like go for that football and see if you can get it away from this quarterback with one of those big, strong defensive linemen. Dwayne, what do you think? Do the 49ers get back on track against the Giants and maybe can they find some success rushing the passer in Jackson Dart?
Well, Eric, I'll tell you this. The thing about Jackson Dart is if his first read is taken away from him, he's not going to his second read. He's going to pull the ball down and take off running. So that's another thing is, well, we can't get off the line of scrimmage, so I guess we're going to have 4 guys spying, but we can't have that neither. but going back to the Giants defense too, they got 3 defensive players that up front that the 49 offensive line is going to have to take care of, and that's going to be Burns, Lawrence, and Thibodeau. And they're going to have their hands full because once they look at the game the 49ers just played in Houston, they'll say, man, we got these guys. This offensive line is soft.
Yeah, and that is, I think, the thing I am most worried about going into that Giants game is, again, that opposing pass rush coming after the 49ers quarterback, whoever it's going to be next week, whether it's Mac Jones or Brock Purdy. And also the inverse of that, right? The other side of that same coin. The 49ers, can they generate a pass rush against Jackson Dart and the New York Giants? We'll find out next weekend when they travel out there to the Meadowlands, and we'll see if they can get it done and get back on track. But for today, 49ers lose 26-15, humbled in Houston against the Texans. And man, it's you're looking at the 49ers last 5 games, and it's gone loss, win, loss, win, loss. So next week, time for a win, boys. Let's go. Let's get the 49ers back on track. And that's all the time that we got for you guys here on the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. Shout out all our everydayers tuning in. Appreciate all of you guys. And thanks for making us your first listen for anything you need to know 49ers. And for Eric Crocker, for Dwayne Board, I'm your host, Eric Engel. We'll see you next time. Peace.